good morning or good afternoon. If it's afternoon where you are, I am Dr. Malia Jones, the editor-in-chief here at Dear Pandemic, and I'm really excited today to be joined by one of our newer contributors at Dear Pandemic, Dr. Chana Davis. Chana, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so Chana is a PhD geneticist by training, and she has some experience in cancer research, genomics, and nutrition. And she is also the author at Fueled by Science, which is a blog and podcast, and a mom of 3 children. And she's joining me from beautiful British Columbia, where she appears to be on a beach.
I'm not actually at the beach, but this is a local beach. It's amazing. I live about 5 minutes from the beach.
Oh, wow. That's lovely. So, Chana, what are your kids looking forward to? It's almost summer, or at least almost summer in terms of end of school. What are your kids looking forward to this summer?
My big guy, I have a 10-year-old, super into sports. So he'll be doing tons of outdoor summer camps, skimboarding at the beach. There'll be mountain biking in the mountains, and what else? Beach volleyball. So those are his big ones this summer. We got him like back-to-back camps. I have also 5-year-old twins. They just finished kindergarten, and there's not a lot of camps for them. So I actually have them in kind of an extension of the aftercare, which is fun because kids can't do a lot of play dates here right now. So, but that's a way to have an all-day play date with the same 8 people, and so they're loving that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
sounds exciting. So we have some questions from viewers, and we're going to get to those in just a second. But first, a couple of thank yous and an important announcement. I want to give a huge thank you to Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing for providing the closed captioning services and ASL interpretation. And a reminder that we don't take questions cold. If you have a question, you should go to the Dear Pandemic question box and submit it there at dearpandemic.org. We use those questions to decide what we're going to talk about on the weekly live, and also what we're going to post about at Dear Pandemic. So put your questions over there. So I've got a warm-up question for you, Chana. Since you study genetics, I thought this one was a great one for you. There's a myth that we get a lot of questions about that goes along the lines of, this isn't a vaccine at all. It's an experimental gene therapy. So since this is your background, tell us, what is a gene therapy, and how are these mRNA vaccines different from gene therapy?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to this one, because I do hear this as well. So gene therapy is actually really hard to do. And the goal of it is to change, for as long as possible, permanently, ideally, your genes, your DNA, which I think of as, the cookbook or the recipe book for what your body makes. And it's used in cases where someone's, the DNA they inherited has some problems and are causing health issues. So you want to correct a health issue by providing, either fixing what's there or providing a new copy of it into your DNA permanently. And my husband is actually a biotech investor, and he has helped to start some companies that work on it. And it is really hard. It's not something you can do by just throwing DNA into somebody's body. It's going to stick. In fact, every time you eat an apple, you're eating apple DNA. So it's not the case that whenever you consume DNA, it enters your cells and stays there. But that is the goal of gene therapy. So by providing basically the recipe for the healthier version of a gene, then their body can make that protein. In fact, there are very few approved gene therapies, because most of them are still in clinical trials, because it's very hard to do this technically. Your cells don't really want to take up and start using foreign DNA, but you can kind of trick them into doing it using specially recoded viruses in some cases. So an example that actually has been really heartwarming to see, there was a mom in my local community here who had a daughter with a condition called spinal muscular atrophy. And it's a progressive degenerative disease where your nerves basically stop working slowly with time. And there's a gene therapy to fix that, because it's due to So I should back up and say most of the diseases that you treat with gene therapy have usually just one gene that's wrong. And if you can just fix that one thing, everything changes.
Mhm.
And this disease, SMA, or spinal muscular atrophy, is an example where you have that one defective gene that can't make the right protein. So if you can provide the recipe through the DNA to that cell, to the right cells, the muscle neurons, for doing that, then you can fix this kid. And in fact, you have to give it to them before they're 2 years of age. And she had a GoFundMe on our local Facebook page, and it was really expensive because usually these are rare diseases with very few cases. Anyways, we were able to, through our community, she was able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get this gene therapy.
Wow.
And I've watched this little girl through Instagram and Facebook and see her basically from being unable to lift her head to being able to develop, catching up with her peers. And it's amazing because it's just a one-time infusion. They do an IV infusion of the proper DNA delivered through a virus, and it gets into the middle of the right place in the cell, and it stays there for basically permanently. So that's a model of gene therapy, and there aren't very many approved ones yet, but we hope to have more in the coming years. There are a lot of trials going on.
Yeah, it's a really exciting technology actually
Mhm.
to address these genetic diseases.
Yeah. So one thing to just point out about gene therapy is that one reason it's so hard is you need to not only get DNA inside the cell. So you think of the cell as like a water balloon. Within that water balloon, there's a second water balloon where the DNA lives, the nucleus. So you need to get the DNA into the cell and into that little compartment. And that's not something your cell wants to do every time it gets DNA, because you're constantly being exposed to the DNA in your food and in the bacteria in your body. So your body's not going to normally do that. So does that make sense for what gene therapy is? So to compare that to mRNA vaccines by comparison,
I was just going to ask that. So how are these mRNA vaccines different?
Yeah, so a couple of key differences. First of all is obviously the goal. The goal is not to have the mRNA to be there in your body permanently. The goal is to have something that's only there as a short-term message, a short-term recipe that will be used and basically self-destruct. And that's what happens. And so mRNA is a perfect way to do that. So an mRNA is basically like a photocopy of a DNA recipe, but with some minor differences. And those minor differences, because of the way RNA looks, it's much less stable molecule. So DNA is built for stability. It's built to last a long time. And RNA is not. RNA is built to be a short-term messenger. And that's exactly what it does when you get gene therapy. It enters your body. It serves as kind of like a signal flare. And then it breaks down into small building blocks, which your body can't really do anything with. And it's been studied, and it's been known that there are no traces a few days later of the original signal or of the spike protein that it provides the message to make. And I think to drive home this whole difference in permanence, I think that's one of the most important differences between DNA and RNA. DNA is a very robust, long-lasting molecule that when you do forensic crimes or you do archaeology, you can find DNA thousands of years later. RNA.
We discovered dinosaur DNA even? I mean, like a lot of thousands of years later.
Yeah. I mean, and Lucy, like there's humans that are, I mean, we're not talking just hundreds of years, we're talking thousands of years, right? So DNA can last a really long time, but that's not going to happen with RNA. And in fact, I've worked with RNA in a lab during my thesis work, and people who work with RNA, they joke, like, you just look at the RNA wrong and it disappears. It's a very fragile molecule. So I have zero concerns that there will be RNA persisting in my body after a vaccine.
So I looked this up because somebody asked me, why do the mRNA vaccines have to be kept so cold? And it's because of this instability, right?
Because of the instability,
they'll just fall apart if they get warm.
Yeah, so all chemical reactions, right, get slowed down by temperature. So I think I assume that's the crux of it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, thanks for that. So we're going to put a link to a FDA document that talks about what cellular gene therapy is. for some follow-up on that. But thanks for that explanation.
Sorry, my phone's a bit tippy, but
That's
I'll
okay.
adjust it if needed.
All right, so let's go on to some questions from readers. This first one is actually from a kid. We solicited questions from kids a couple of weeks ago. We didn't get to this one, but I love this one. And this is related to what you have studied as a researcher. So I really wanted to ask you, how did the coronavirus get from bats to people? And this comes from Aria, who is 6 years old in Iowa.
Yeah, that's an important and maybe confusing question, because you might be hearing a lot of different stories in the headlines about, what happened, the origins of the pandemic. And the truth is, we don't know the exact sequence of events, but we have a good sense of the rough shape of what happened. I kind of liken this to this whole tracking down the exact path of the pandemic to like solving a crime. So we have a lot of clues. We think we have some suspects, but we can't, convict them yet, because it hasn't been proven beyond reasonable doubt. We just have very strong suspicions. So first of all, why do we think it's bats are the most likely, original source? And that's because if you survey, living creatures, mammals across the planet, and I saw some studies that did this, most coronaviruses live in bats. So if you're looking for a coronavirus, the bat is an obvious place to look, just because that's where most of them live. And just like you can draw a family tree of humans, you can draw family trees of viruses, and you can figure out who's related to who and who likely came from who. And so when you do that, you can see that the closest cousin to the SARS-CoV-2 virus is found in bats, and there was a sample in Wuhan in a bat research lab that was about 96% similar. So there are labs that go out and collect wild bats and sort of sample viruses from them and sequence them and freeze them. So
keep them for archives to study. To do things like this to see if there's any relationship to other viruses.
Yeah, I mean, so this, you probably heard many times is that the next pandemic is a matter of when, not if. And it is no surprise whatsoever that it's a coronavirus. And so, there's a paper that I saw 2 years ago called, bats house deadly coronaviruses. I mean, this is well known that bats house deadly coronaviruses. Right. And so, so bats are just known to be the place where it's at. If you're a coronavirus, go find a bat.
Do you know if the first SARS was also of bat origin?
I believe it was. Yeah. Okay. And so where the different pandemic stories change, almost not all of them, but many of them started with bats, but then they went through an intermediate host before they went to humans. So I don't know of a pandemic actually where it went straight from bats to humans. Most often there's another animal that humans might hang out with more closely, that at first goes into that animal. And then, you and I don't just swap DNA when we hang out, but viruses and bacteria, they do that. So if the bat jumps into another animal, there's an opportunity to kind of swap DNA with other viruses that are in there. And so what commonly happens is it goes from the bat to an intermediate host, and it might undergo some modifications and maybe get some new features that make it work well in humans. And then if a human hangs out with that intermediate animal, that's where things take off. And so so we know that that's the most common path, and that path makes sense, but we don't know exactly which was the middle animal and exactly which colony of bats and which cave was the one that it came from. Right. We think that intermediate event, the transmission from, the secondary animal to humans, was probably could have been at one of these wild animal markets. And there's a specific market, a seafood market, that was in the news a lot early on, because many of the early cases of who got coronavirus were associated and had spent time with someone in the market or been in the market themselves. A significant fraction of the first cases had some close connection to that market. And they basically treated that market like a crime scene and did a bunch of swabbing and took it back to the lab, and they found traces of virus there. Right. So we have a crime scene, we have a very common path, but we just haven't yet been able to find which animal, because the animals weren't there anymore, they were all cleared away. Which animal was it? They were just sampling the blood and the ground. They were sampling just everything. So we know that infected creatures were there. We just don't know exactly which one it was. And, some people have taken this and said, oh, well, then maybe this wasn't the right story. But in reality, if you look at other pandemics and other, epidemics, it's not unusual to take years or decades to figure out exactly which colony, was it that was the ones that were housing it, because different populations of bats or different little, families of bats are going to have different viruses in them, and those viruses will be mutating. So you can't just say all bats don't share all the same viruses. You need to find which little cave was it, which intermediate animals was, and that can take a long time. So we're still figuring out the specifics, but I think we have a good sense of what the most likely scenario was.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of interesting connections here. One of them is that, that thing you were talking about, where when we have a virus that jumps from one species to another, that's an opportunity for those really important changes. The virus can sort of swap genetic code with its other viruses that are in that animal. And that's why there's so much worry about the mink outbreaks. Here in Wisconsin, it's quite cold, and there's in the winter anyway. It's really hot today, actually, but we have a pretty active mink farming industry, and this was considered such a biosecurity threat that mink husbandry was in one of the very first vaccine priority groups, and there was some hand waving about whether this was even appropriate. But that's why, because if minks are, if some other animal population is really circulating this virus, well, that's a real risk for it developing some new trick that could infect humans even better, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't quote me, but didn't they sacrifice a bunch of minks?
Yeah, they did, especially in Europe. And there were a few farms here in Wisconsin too that had to, they call it a cull. They had to kill all of the mink because there was an outbreak going on. And it's a really serious human, it's literally a national biosecurity threat. Is how it was classed. So thinking about the whodunit, we still don't know where the 1918 flu came from. Of course, that was before we had any tools like genetic sequencing or anything, but we may never know where some of the old pandemics originated.
Yeah, a friend of mine works on Ebola and says we don't really fully understand that one either.
Yeah.
And HIV apparently took decades.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so next question. This one is not a question from kids, but it's a question about kids, and I know it's one that is near and dear to your heart. So this comes from Raquel in Brooklyn, New York, and Raquel is like many of us who have 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds, just kind of why can't my kid get vaccinated right now? She says, today, Dr. Fauci estimated that kids as young as 4 will have access to the vaccine by the end of 2021, early 2022. And this is disappointing. Since, 12 to 15-year-olds are already eligible, what the heck? Why is it taking so long for 10 to 11-year-olds? Can you explain how this works?
Yeah, first of all, I should say there is nothing really magical about the change from 11 to 12, but they had to draw a line somewhere in their trials, right? And can
I interject too? Because I said something a couple of weeks ago that I think people found a little confusing, which was that we were talking about how our immune systems develop over the course of childhood. And I said sort of like puberty, but I want to make it really clear. It's not part of puberty. It's a separate development process, right?
Yes.
It has nothing to do with puberty. It's its own development process. Like your feet growing is also a development process, right? So,
and your brain is still developing. Everyone recognizes that kids don't have the same exact brains as adults.
Right.
Apparently some of that still happens in your 20s. So
I know. Yeah. I heard that critical thinking skills don't develop until your mid-20s, which having taught college before, I sort of believed. So anyway, what
yeah.
is the deal?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the deal is that kids' immune systems are still developing, and because of that, they're potentially more reactive. And so, to give a younger kid the same amount as an adult is risky, potentially. So I think what they're doing is, so with the 12 to 15-year-olds, they actually just extended the original phase 3 trials, and so they're doing the same dose, but they felt uncomfortable doing that under age 12. I guess that basically is 12 is as low as they felt comfortable doing that. And so for the younger kids, they're going to be doing breaking them into 3 age groups. I actually wrote them down here in my notes. For Pfizer, they're lumping it 5 to 11, and then 2 to 5, and 6 months to 2. Moderna is doing something similar, and they'll do the older ones, one at a time. They're going to go back and say, what's the right dose? And my husband describes it, drug development is like threading a needle. You need to find kind of the Goldilocks dose where it will give enough of an immune response, but not too much of an immune response that you have, crazy side effects or even dangerous side effects. So they want to figure out the safe dose at each of those age groups before they enroll thousands of kids to see how well it works at that dose. So that's what's taking longer, is that they're going back to the drawing board and reevaluating dose.
Right. So they have to go all the way back to that first phase, the phase 1 trials, which is where they evaluate the doses.
Exactly. Yeah. So those phase 1 trials started in many cases in March, and they said they were going to take about 2 months. And then from there, once you have the dose, you can enroll thousands of kids. I think I just looked it up last night. The Pfizer is going to be enrolling about 4,600 kids across those 3 age groups in their extended, like when the dose trials are much smaller, probably just a couple hundred. And then the Moderna will be doing about a little over 6,000, almost 7,000 kids across their 3 age groups. I think everyone expects that they will work and provide protection. They're just concerned about getting the dose right to not have an overactive immune response. And when my husband and I talked, I asked him, like, how would you feel about putting our kids in a trial? If these drugs, how nervous are you about these vaccines? And he said, we both agreed our only concern really is the immunogenicity. Is it going to spark any overly strong immune response? And that's kind of where getting the right dose is your best protection.
And we actually saw in the dosing trials for adults at the highest doses, there were really strong reactions from the immune system, even to the point where people ended up in the ER because they had such high fevers and, so you want to get it right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're in Canada. How's the vaccine for kids rollout going there? I mean, here in the US, we have availability for 12 to 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's actually going pretty well, I'd say. I mean, Pfizer vaccines have gotten into a lot of arms in those age groups.
Mm-hmm. I only got it was approved here pretty quickly, but in general in Canada, we've had similar approval timelines, but we've had delays in actual access because of just supply, and we're not manufacturing here. So we're kind of
because the US bought up all the doses.
So we're beholden to getting sloppy seconds, right? And so that's been frustrating for a lot of Canadians, definitely. But I think we're catching up. So I think now the number of people with first doses, I don't think is that far off in the 2 countries. We've been doing something a bit weird, or but unorthodox here, and just sort of going off script and extending the time between doses in order to get more first doses out, which I think is turning out to be a good strategy, but it's unknown. Yeah. So my expectations were the 12 to 15 is approved, and I don't know anyone yet who's gotten it, but I know people are expecting to get it soon in that age group. So I think that the gap is going to close even more so when the younger kids come around, as supply is less of an issue.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Can I put in a plug for why my husband and I do plan to vaccinate our kids?
Yeah, totally.
I was thinking about this because this is a conversation I have a lot with my friends, because I have 2 5-year-olds and a 10-year-old, and there's a lot of conversation about should kids even get vaccinated. I think I think it's really important to separate kind of the conversation at different levels. So there's the global conversation where you're saying, does it make sense to vaccinate kids when other people around the world are higher risk and need it more? I think there's a very strong argument there. I think that's true, that kids maybe don't deserve as high priority as, adults in high risk in other countries.
Higher risk people in other countries.
Yeah. But that's not the decision being offered to us, unfortunately. So by saying no to a vaccine that's offered to your kid, you are not helping someone in another country get a dose. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just not. So anyways, I think that's one thing that I want to just sort of make sure is part of the conversation. And
I think about this a lot because I really think about those dynamics of transmission chains and how, one of the unique things in terms of the sciences about infectious disease is that there is no independence between the people that you're studying, right? Like it is by nature dependent. If I get sick, the people near me might get sick too. And so, that idea that me giving up my kid's dose so that somebody else might get it maybe doesn't even make sense from an infectious disease standpoint, because my kid could get it and pass it to someone else, and that eventually will continue the pandemic. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say, I do hear a lot of discussion about the case for kids being built on the importance of kids in herd immunity. And, if 30% of the population doesn't have it, we'll never reach herd immunity. And that's true. And that is important. But I don't think that argument resonates with a lot of parents. I just think we have to be careful about, I just want to make sure parents also understand it's actually in your best interest too. It's not just you being a good citizen and you're not just being asked to be a good citizen. It's actually better for public health reasons, but also from if just the individual personal math, my personal kid's likelihood of having bad health things happen to them is lower if I get a vaccine than if I don't. Because, even if the COVID rates are kind of low right now, if you don't vaccinate your kid ever, they will eventually get it. Not saying 100%, but odds are pretty high. They will eventually encounter it if they never get vaccinated. And so when you're looking at the risks of vaccine, and yes, there is going to be some small unknown risk, and that risk is probably going to be what's the risk of a serious, immune reaction. We don't know what that is, but we'll get a sense from the trials if it's under 1 in 1,000, or if we're talking in the 10,000s or 100,000s, right? We'll get a sense from those trials how rare it is. So you'll be weighing that risk against the risk of something bad happening if my kid gets COVID. And we know, there's these severe immune reactions to COVID are happening. Some estimates are as high as 1 in 1,000, and some are lower than that. But even just that, like the chances of having that severe immune reaction is going to be probably higher with COVID than with the vaccine. And if you layer on top of that, what we're seeing is fairly common long COVID, estimates ranging from 1 in 10 to even higher than that, having some lingering effects and maybe even feeling so fatigued they can't go to school for months. That's something to take seriously.
Yeah. I was completely floored during the CDC meeting where they were reviewing the Pfizer data to make the recommendation for older kids. What was that, 2 weeks ago? They said that, even though the risks for kids are quite low, COVID is the 10th leading cause of death among children in the US right now.
I heard that from Dr. Bonnie Maldonado.
Which is like, risk of death from all causes for kids is extremely low, but to have it be in the top 10, that's not nothing. That's not something we should be ignoring. So I agree with you. Here in the States, a lot of places are dropping mask mandates just across the board, including for kids. And my county is actually doing this. On June 2nd, we will have no mask requirements. And I'm really concerned. I'm not ready to just let my kids get COVID. My kids are 5 and 10 or 6 and 10 also. So this is a major point of concern.
How are your COVID rates locally?
They're very low. And actually in my county has the highest vaccine rates in the country. But there's also 200,000 people who are not eligible yet because they're too young.
Yeah.
And so when I'm thinking ahead to like summer camp, for example, okay, I'm going to send my kid to summer camp. They're going to be in a room with only other kids who are all definitely not vaccinated. I'm worried about that. I would like them to still be wearing masks. So, yeah, I am worried about this. We're having like really extended conversations today. We're never going to get to all these questions.
Okay.
You want to ask me one, or
I'll ask you a question. Sure.
I know you want to talk about mix and match, though. Maybe we'll just. I'll be brief, and you can be brief about mix and match.
I'm curious to hear your answer to this one because it's one that I hear a lot.
Yeah.
So, has there ever been a vaccine approved by the FDA that later something strange side effects showed up? And just to read this verbatim, Michelle from Chicago, she said, "That is my possibly completely irrational lingering fear. And I wonder if there's a history that can help me think rationally about this."
Yeah, so this is a great question. It does this, I mean, everyone's talking about this idea of like long-term side effects from the vaccines that are possibly unknown. And so the answer is yes and no. When we look at the whole history of all the vaccines we've ever made, when we talk about long-term effects, the timeline that we ever see long-term effects for is not years. It's like weeks, 8 weeks at the outside. And there have been a couple of examples of a vaccine that had a delayed effect that happened, a couple of weeks later. All of these vaccines, the best example, and actually the one of maybe 3 examples in all of history, is the original oral polio vaccine, which is considered to have had a long-term effect. That vaccine was made with a process where the virus was actually grown in cells and then killed using something like formaldehyde. And that was meant to kill the virus, but in a few cases it didn't. And some people who got the oral polio vaccine got a vaccine that contained polio and then they got polio. So they were actually infected by the vaccine. They could also shed because they were infected with a wild polio virus. They could shed the virus, and so their close contacts also got polio. About 1 in 2.5 million people were paralyzed by polio infection from the vaccine in the mid-60s. This was the result of an imperfect purification process in the manufacturing. And, I think it's really important to note that we don't have that problem anymore. We don't accidentally not kill the virus anymore. That's our lab practices have improved quite a bit in the last 60 years. There's also there's one exception to this, timeline thing for what we talk about when we talk about how long might we expect any latent effect. There is debatably this extremely rare other virus infection that also happened with the live polio vaccine. The same failure in the purification process where the virus was grown in cells and then killed. Sometimes this other virus got mixed in there called simian virus 40 or SV40 and grew alongside the polio virus and then was also not killed in that purification process. And so people may have gotten infected with simian virus 40, which causes cancer in rats anyway. So there's this theoretical possibility that whole purification failure problem resulted in cancer that happened years and years later. None of that is biologically possible with a vaccine that doesn't contain any live virus. So yeah, there is a history of this. It's something we look for. It is, I think it's really, really, I think it's impossible with the way the vaccines are made today.
Yeah, I think it's very important to note that those are cases where it's a different technology. It's using live viruses as the vaccine.
Right. And live virus vaccines do have different recommendations and safety protocols. So the vaccines that we use today that contain a live virus, those are the ones that are not recommended during breastfeeding or pregnancy, right? They're kind of a different class of safety than these vaccines that we're talking about.
And the thing is, I mean, if we were in a polio pandemic and there was a 1 in 2 million chance you were getting a live virus, wouldn't you rather get the vaccine with the 1 in 2 million chance?
And I'll tell you, I've talked about this with a lot of people, and everyone I've ever talked to who lived through the polio epidemics is like, absolutely, that risk was worth it. So I think that is an important thing to consider. Is, all drugs, you're balancing risks and benefits, and even with that risk, the benefits are really high.
I saw a funny TikTok on the imperfect protection, because we see breakthrough cases, and this guy saying, condoms don't prevent every pregnancy. Do you not use them? Seat belts don't work 100%. Do you not use them? It's like it's not perfect argument is not a reason to not use it, right? Of course, we do need to understand risks, and that's a good segue to mix and match discussion.
Okay, so let's be brief about mix and match if we can. So we're getting this question. I know you're actually in a similar situation, so I'm really curious here. We got a question, I didn't write down the name here, but a reader in Germany says, I have had 1 dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine, but now the EU has said no to this vaccine for people under 60. And that's due to this, the risk of this really rare blood clot for younger people. So my second dose will be, who knows? It'll be a different vaccine. Should I take a chance with whatever I'm offered? I mean, nobody's really studied this idea of mixing 2 vaccines, at least, we don't have much information here. So what do we think about this mix and match idea?
Yeah. Well, it is being tested in trials. And I'm glad, because I'm in the exact same boat. I had 1 dose of AstraZeneca. It was almost exactly 4 weeks ago. And they're no longer offering AstraZeneca for first doses, but they are saying you can take it for your second dose if you want. They're holding enough doses for that possibility. So there have been 2 trials so far that I'm aware of looking at mix and match, and there will be more. I actually just tried to sign up for the Canadian one. I haven't heard back yet. But those 2 trials together account for maybe 500 to 1,000 people have now done a mix and match. Some of them got AstraZeneca first, and then Pfizer. Others got Pfizer first, and then AstraZeneca. And there have been no serious safety concerns arising from that. So that is really reassuring. So I'm reassured from a safety perspective. That's, when you're talking about 1,000 people having done it, if something happens at a 1 in 10,000 rate, you won't have seen it yet. But then you can also look on history. And this concept of mixing and matching vaccines is not new to COVID. It's been done before, and it's been done successfully. And I don't think immunologists, in general are concerned. They think in general, this might even be a good thing. And in fact, those trials did show slightly greater side effects in the people who got the mix and match strategies. Whether that means you're better protected remains to be seen.
Because we still don't have a good sense if there's a connection between the side effects from the vaccine and the amount of protection you end up with.
Yeah, I guess the way I think about my kids is like sort of hearing a bunch of fuss upstairs from my kids means like something is definitely happening. But if you hear quiet, something could still be happening. So if your immune system is acting up, that's good. It's acting up. But if it's quiet, it could still be doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
And we know that. Just the odds tell us that there's a lot of kind of like covert stuff going on beneath the covers that you're not really aware of, because just if a vaccine not protects 95% of people, but only 10% of people have side effects, well, obviously there's a huge number of people that are still getting protection without it. But I don't know, and I would love the answer to is, do those that have, I think it's probably in many ways it's a threshold effect. Like you need a certain minimum level of protection to not get the virus. Whether those people that are sicker are sort of like super protected, maybe, but do they even need that super protection? Probably not, right? Yeah. That's kind of what I think that's just my total guess about the way that I explain what the observations to date.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that scientists are still trying to puzzle out, right?
Yeah, yeah. But so coming back to the decision, I don't think there's an easy one. There probably isn't a one size fits all answer. So our prime minister is in the same boat, and the opposition party put him on the spot about it recently. And he said, this was just like the day or two ago, my doctor currently advises me to take AstraZeneca if it's offered to me. But if the science changes, but I'm not due for my shot yet. If the science changes in that time, then I will change. I think so. Every one of these decisions comes down to weighing one risk against another risk. And when I made the decision in the first place to get AstraZeneca, on one side of the equation, I was saying, okay, well, 1 in maybe 100,000 chance of a blood clot. What is the risk I face from COVID from not being vaccinated right now? And the answer to that second risk that I'm weighing it against, that depends on how common is COVID right now. How long would I have to wait for my second vaccine? And am I someone who is at higher risk of comorbidities? Do I have diabetes? Do I have some condition that would put me at greater risk? Well, I don't have any additional risk factors, but even for me, as someone who is a high risk of blood clots compared to, I'm in the higher risk category of blood clots, but our COVID numbers were relatively high. And I thought I might be waiting a month or so for another vaccine. So in that case, I thought, well, the risk of the blood clot is lower than the risk I face from COVID in this intervening month. And there are actually some analyses that have really put numbers on this. And you can it is objectively, that was the smarter risk move. Now it's a different scenario because I don't know if I'm going to be offered like, take this one, they're both right now. Like, do I even have to wait for the alternative? If I don't have to wait, I would probably just take the alternative because just to get away from the blood clot risk. If I do have to wait, then I have to again weigh the protection that getting vaccinated now offers against to offset the blood clot risk. In the one of the groups in Canada has said that they think the blood clot estimate may be as high as 1 in 50,000, which starts to be harder to dismiss.
Well, especially in these subgroups, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it does seem concentrated at younger ages, which is why in the EU they're now only giving it to people who are in that older age group that have not had blood clots.
And I've only heard of reports in women, but I haven't heard them explicitly say only women need to worry. So I'm kind of not really sure what's going on there, but I'd love to.
So the US, when the FDA and the CDC reviewed this, there has been one case in.
That's what I wondered. Yeah.
But I think we're up to about 17 cases in total. This is for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We don't have AstraZeneca approved here yet. So for Johnson & Johnson, which appears to be a similar biological pathway, and it's a similar technology that would produce, that the vaccine uses. So we've had 17-ish cases in total, and 16 have been in women. And there is definitely, it seems to be more likely in younger people. So.
That's sort of what I suspected, that maybe there was one man that was an exception. Therefore, you can't make that generalization that men don't need to worry about it.
Right.
But
okay, we went way over time. We have to stop. Okay. No, it's okay. This has been really interesting conversation. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to see more of Chana's work and ask her more questions, you can check out her website. It's fueledbyscience.com, or find her on Facebook, Insta, and Twitter. And her handle on all of those is Fueled by Science. And we're going to put a link to her website in the chat here. And she's also a new contributor at Dear Pandemic. So I'm really excited to see more of what you are posting on Dear Pandemic.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So again, thank you to Bridges for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing for providing the interpretation services. And we're really excited to be more inclusive and provide all this information to more people who need it. So if you have used those services, can you please let us know in the chat? That's very helpful for us. And I will see you next week. Next week is actually going to be our last live. We're sunsetting this part of our content because Dear Pandemic is evolving, and we have basically I just need to focus on doing other things. So I'm going to have Allison Buttenheim, my co-founder, on, and we're going to have sort of a farewell to the live next week. So until then, stay safe and stay sane, and I'll see you next week.